Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is a special edition of the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, we dedicate ourselves to the just announced this season on Zwift, software updates, hardware upgrades and new features. The Watopians have been busy. Okay, well, we're going to abandon our usual format, although not entirely, to chat our way through the raft, the plethora, the abundance of shiny new things which Zwift is going to scatter before us this upcoming winter season. The customary characters are assembled, but instead of doing a round table on every new feature, I am going to wholly and completely arbitrarily decide which I think are the most exciting new shiny things, rank them in order of awesomeness, and then assign them to the Zwiftcasters I think best qualified to offer their esteemed wisdom and opinion. Except when I don't, because I'm going to ask everybody to comment on the first item on our list of new Zwift awesomeness.
Right on!
And that is, drumroll, yes, new roads in Watopia. Always welcome by Zwifters, but this time it's different. On stage 5 of the Tour of Watopia, sometime in November, new roads or new somethings are going to emerge from the waves. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite, the Greek god of love and beauty, was born fully formed from the foam of the sea. We think Zwift creative genius John Mayfield must have been reading some Greek classics because, as far as we know, the waters of Watopia will part to reveal something. Eric Slange of Zwift Insider, is this going to be a first? Live terraforming on Zwift, new roads created before our very eyes. I may have got carried away because we don't know everything about this, but something super unusual is planned.
They're talking about how it's going to be rising from the ocean. So, yeah, I'm thinking what I would love to have, actually, my favorite guess is a velodrome, but
but they don't rise from the waters, Eric. I don't think velodromes.
They don't. Yeah, this was reminiscent of something, and I had to do a little bit of poking. But do you recall December 2016? The volcano expansion rose from the ocean as well.
Did it now?
And I'd forgotten about that, but I looked back and it's true. There were posts on Zwift Riders and people are going, hey, there's smoke rising from the ocean. And then, hey, there's this little mountain. Do you guys see this mountain out in the ocean? That was, December 2016. And then the volcano, I think, was released in January 2017.
Well, maybe it's...
So they're doing it.
Maybe it's geological in nature. I mean, I was trying to puzzle this out. I mean, they can't kind of reveal new roads in real time, can they? Unless they're like really clever, because there's going to be, 10,000 Zwifters who can't all be in the same place at the same time to see the same thing. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works in game exactly. I mean, I know it's possible in the world of video games. It's possible. I remember my son playing Fortnite, and they would have these events where they had this big unveiling, and all the players are. Their avatars are all around watching it and wanting to interact with it as soon as they can. So there's ways to do that. But yeah, I don't know how exactly that works with Zwift, if it is a real-time thing or if it just kind of comes in stages.
It's all ones and zeros. They can do anything. They can do
what they want.
But I think we're reaching a point, aren't we, where we might, both of us, think it's more kind of geological than tarmac or pavement, as you guys would say.
Yeah, there's got to be some geological stuff, but certainly there's roads on it of some sort. We'll find out, I guess.
Shane, a real-time event, and no doubt a zillion Zwifters signed up to witness it. I hope they've got the coding right on this one. G'day, mate, by the way.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm worried. Now, I'm worried because of, I've been around Zwift for quite some time now, and those who have also been around for quite some time will remember the Yenzi effect. Now, this was, back in the day, we had Jens Voigt, one of the very first pro riders on Zwift, join a group ride. I think it was heavily promoted. What did we have, Simon? I think we had 300 sign-ups at the time, and things went south pretty quick. And ever since then, anytime some large event has happened on Zwift, it's us old schoolers are a bit worried about the Yenzi effect. It's in folklore now. I've got no idea what they're trying to do here. Because when you start a route, the route has to be there. If it's not, I'm keen to see what they're going to do with this one. I just hope we don't have to jump onto jet skis and get across to it or something. I don't know, or it might be the release of rowing if the waters don't part. Who knows? We shall see. But it's in a great time too, because that's when Zwifting starts ramping up. Well, mid-September things start ramping up with people coming back indoors. November it's all guns blazing. They're going to have to be ready. I really hope they've got their TCP sockets all sorted for this one.
I mean, to be fair, that we've only been teased. We haven't been informed. We've merely been teased. But something new emerging from the waves. Well, I mean, it's not going to be a mermaid waving at you, is it? We're expecting a little bit more than that.
Could be a water park. Maybe Zwift are getting into virtual water slides. Who knows?
Nathan, yo dude, is this a trick borrowed from other games? Have you ever seen or heard anything like this before? And a third question, what the hell do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen live reveals before, going as far back from my memory of games I've played. World of Warcraft was the first MMO that, the first, and took the world by storm. And then when they first expanded their level system, they did a thing called Burning Crusade, and there was this live portal that everyone sat at and waited for the expansion to come out. And I think there was even a thing that happened in game for that portal to show up that everybody could see live. So yeah, it's been done before. It was super popular. And there's probably been plenty of times done since then, but that was the first one I can remember. As far as what I think it'll be, I think we're going to get a Paris-Roubaix experience and finally have our velodrome. And it's going to emerge from the sea at the end of your stage. So
now that is very interesting, because that is also what Eric said he'd like to see. And I rapidly poo-pooed that idea on the basis that velodromes do not rise Aphrodite-like from the waves. But hey, it's Zwift. Anything could happen. Dave Toll, welcome, Dave. Now, I think I'm probably going to ask you the hardest question that I've asked everybody, really, because nobody knows what it is, so it's a tough question to answer. But is this a giddy gimmick designed to disappoint, or the real-time birth of a whole new bit of Watopia? Where is the smart Dave Toll money going?
I don't know about the smart Dave Toll money, but I do know that I'm intrigued, and I'm a hard guy to get excited about things these days. So if I'm intrigued, I would imagine most folks are, and I think it's great marketing. I'm going to go with Nathan. I feel like everyone's going to be piling on with the velodrome concept, but it just feels like the time is now. So great marketing. I'm down for it. I love how sticky these things can be and make you want to come back. And as far as I understand, it's going to be a process of it emerging. And yeah, I'm down for it. I really am.
Okay, well, I mean, I like the concept of intrigue marketing, Dave, as do you. The slight downside of it is they can raise expectations to an unreasonable level, and then when the thing that we've been teased about actually arrives, everybody goes, is that it? But anyway, we will see. We have been teased. Stage 5, Tour of Watopia. There is definitely going to be an extension of the original, and dare I say it, best of the Zwift worlds, but it's going to arrive in a blaze of something.
Ride on!
Right, next on the list of new Zwift awesomeness. Well, if I die soon, I can die happy. After 10 whole years, one of the most diswanted ever features is here. The rumours of this have actually been circulating and even confirmed by Zwift staffers for some considerable time. But details have there been none. It is, however, at very long last, a new and customizable HUD heads-up display. As of now, Zwifters can choose 4 from 7 metrics to decide exactly what info they see on their ride. I'm willing to bet that average watts is going to be amongst the favourites, but there are more. Shane and Eric for this one. Shane, this is more welcome than a roaring fire on a freezing day.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Look, as cyclists, we've all got bike computers to ride outside with, and we spend a lot of time customizing those and what numbers we want to see and what's displayed as we're riding along. Now, indoors, Zwift is your head unit. People also use their head units indoors as well. They shouldn't really need to, because Zwift is effectively the connector for all your devices and your peripherals. So we needed that customization many, many years ago, but I'm glad to see it here, and I've been playing around a little bit with it, and I quite like what I see. A lot of room for improvement, a lot of extra fields, which I might talk about in a minute, which we could see on there. But it's a very, very welcome addition. You can also turn them off too. So not only can you add things, you can clear it out and make things simple if you want to, if you want to tidy up the screen.
I mean, we have wanted this forever. I'll ask Eric the same shortly, but what do you think the new 4 favourite metrics that most Zwifters will choose to be visible all the time? At the moment it is 4 from 7. Which 4 do you think those will be? And as you just said, you would like to see some improvements. Where would they come?
Yeah, look, I think the 4 that people will use is, the defaults are great, but I'll be using cadence, heart rate. Power is always going to be on screen because Zwift, the core of Zwift is power. You need power to ride. So that's always going to be on screen. But the configurable ones, cadence, heart rate, average power, is actually fantastic. I did a race the other day and had average power, and it started dropping throughout the race, and that was my legs, but it was good to see that in real time. The little progress bar, or a little sort of intensity bar for the entire ride, which is there as part of the new HUD. People will see this when it rolls out. That is really, really cool. The average power, though, does need a lap button to reset it because it's for the entire session. But I think my 4th one will be TSS. So tracking, what's your TSS? If it's 100, then effectively I think that's equivalent to a 40-kilometre time trial at FTP or something like that. So I like TSS as a judge of how hard the effort's been. But I think they're missing one, Simon. I think there needs to be an extra value in there for everybody's screen, that being how far is Simon from getting the Tron bike? And it needs to be in meters and elevation. There we go. Here we go.
Now you're just being silly, and I'm going to... That's a complete ridiculous idea, Shane. Absolutely ridiculous. Eric, we hear rumours that the new metrics are not going to be the only new metrics, as Shane just hinted at, apart from his last very silly idea. There could be some new ones in the works, and certainly there'll be new ones that the Zwifters want. We hear normalised power could be one. Eric, if it's not too personal a question, how's your HUD configured, my friend? And which do you think of these metrics, which do you think will be the 4 most popular?
Mine right now is set to, let's see, I have, because there's 4 fields, so I have RPM, my cadence, my BPM, my heart rate, average power, and then calories is my 4th one, because right now I'm in the middle of trying to drop a few pounds for some big upcoming rides that I'm working on. So I'm looking at that a little more closely.
Average power's the big one. That's the one we've been missing, isn't it?
I think so. I think if you ask which ones will be most popular, I think cadence and heart rate are just no-brainers. I think everyone's going to want those because that's what was there before. I think average power would be the logical 3rd most popular. And then the 4th, I think, is kind of a toss-up. Maybe between calories and watts per kilo, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, we hear rumours that the new metrics are not going to be the only new metrics. Apparently, normalised power is in the works. Would you welcome that? And what requests would you have for other metrics that we don't currently have that we might like to see?
Yeah, normalized power would be great to see. That's a solid metric for training. Other ones I'd like to see, the first one that comes to mind actually is a draft meter sort of thing. But in talking to actually John Mayfield in the last couple of weeks, we were chatting about this, and he said, we've got the draft numbers there in game. They just want to expose that metric in a cooler way than just a number. like something visual on screen, some sort of a draft indicator. So that's kind of the sticking point there. Another one that
they said they've been trialing something like this with the staff, haven't they?
Yeah. There's something internally that they're doing with drafting. Yeah. Another metric I'd be interested in is W prime. That's that. It's the, how would you describe it? It's the amount of, it's how much anaerobic power you have. Basically, it's like your bucket of over FTP power, and it really is a big indicator of how well you can do in a race and how much you've got left. How much hard effort you have left, how many matches you have left. So a W prime would be a super interesting metric to have up there, and to be able to race and go, okay, I still got 5 kilojoules left. Lap stats is a big request that I see from Zwifters all the time. I've never been a big lap user, like on your head unit, hitting the lap button. I haven't done a lot of that, but it makes a lot of sense for certain training scenarios to be able to hit a lap button and then to be able to see average power, average average heart rate for the lap, and just kind of create your own workout that way.
I mean, definitely with average power, a lap button I think would be super, super useful.
Yeah. What else? 2 other ideas. Left-right power balance is something that people like. If you have a dual-sided power meter, which most people on Zwift are on a smart trainer, so that really doesn't apply to most people. These are kind of esoteric requests. Last one, the weirdest one of all, is I would love to have a counter for how many riders you have passed in your current activity. That definitely applies to I did a Zwift Insider post about a chase challenge when Zwift was doing, I don't remember the big series of rides, but they were rides where you had, say, 1,000 riders in this group ride that technically wasn't a race. But what I really love to do in those big group rides is to kind of start slowly, start in the back, and then just see how many people I can pass, just working my way forward, not killing myself in effort, but just trying to keep steady effort and pass as many riders as I can. And it'd be really cool to have kind of a scoreboard that would keep track of that.
Those are definitely very niche requests, Eric. Not quite as not quite as niche as Shane's suggestion of how many meters I am away from the trombone, but we'll draw a veil over that. We'll draw a veil over that. There are a couple of other not insignificant tweaks too. I mean, the bar permanently visible showing at a glance power zone colours. That is just great. I see keyboard shortcut G shuffling off to the keyboard shortcut retirement home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. It's the G view. It's a very different view from what the new HUD is showing. So G, when you turn on the graph at the bottom of your screen, what that shows is the history of the last 10 minutes of your activity, basically. So it's showing a graph of your power and your heart rate for the last 10 minutes. But the new HUD, what it's showing how much time you've spent in each power zone.
In each zone, across the whole ride.
Relative to the other zone across your whole activity. Yeah. So it's two different graphs. I think they both have a place.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for now. We'll be back to you shortly. Okay, well, racing, which is attracting more and more and more Zwifters, is no longer the poor relation it once was in HQ's priorities. 10 long years ago, when Watopia was a baby, racing was almost wholly a community endeavour, pretty much unsupported by Zwift, at least in the very early days. As Zwift ramps up for a whole season of 10th birthday celebrations, we can reflect just how far we've come with the love, attention and development dollars HQ now showers on racing. And that can be seen in the list of new Zwift awesomeness. Zwift Racing Score continues to be tested and developed, leading before too long to a comprehensive system of results-based rankings, which means, in short, that if you want to race, it will be easier and easier to race alongside Zwifters who will push you, but won't crush you. fairer fields of similarly abled competitors, leading to a better and more enjoyable racing experience. And Racing Calendar is now highly stratified, super clear, and extremely well organised. A new one has just been published as part of this season on Zwift. Nathan, you can give us your thoughts on the new Racing Calendar in a moment, but first, keep it brief, because I know that you will have a lot to say on this, but first, how far we've come, eh?
Well, I mean, how far we've come, we originally just started from Watopia's lap banner and said go in game in general messaging, right? There was no event portal. We were tracking everything through Strava at that point. Everyone, this is the really funny one, right? Like, everyone had to download. You think dual recording is like a thing? If those who know what dual recording is, we had to download a general clock that everyone knew was on the same timer.
An atomic clock that was the same all over the world. I remember it well.
Everyone would be like, "Do you have your right clock? Do you have your right clock?" Oh my gosh! I mean, the way we got things done, and that passion only continued, right? Then you have Zwift Power, then you had streaming, then we had, the launch of Zwift Community Live, KISS Super League, and it kept on going from there. And little by little, Zwift, as it grew, the attention from Zwift grew, right? And so, and now you see where we're at. My thoughts, I'm still going to be a little bit of curmudgeon. I'm really happy with where things are at. Like, I'm really, really happy. But at the same time, like, sport's an interesting thing. I'm a religious studies major, actually, in my academic career, and sport and religion are pretty much exactly the same thing in behavior. And you've got to have local churches coming up as a good. And so, like, if you just had the Pope doing the only thing as the Pope, like, nothing else would be going on, right? And so, like, I'm really glad that the Pope's doing things. Like, this is great. How's all the local flocks going, and how are they self-sustaining is a big question of mine. That's always a question of mine, because I'm a community guy. So, but yeah, we've come a really long way, and I'm super excited.
And the calendar, I mean, it looks so slick. I mean, the actual document looks so slick. And now the Zwift-owned and Zwift-supported races, I mean, they are just so good compared to where we were a decade ago. And I don't want to keep going back to this decade ago thing, but we are coming up to celebrate Zwift's 10th birthday, so it is a kind of good time to reflect. But calendar this year looks, something for everyone.
Very well organized. And the something for everyone you really hit there is right on. With Z Racing launched, you've got this like just pickup game kind of racing real quickly. It has some structure to it with the GC contention on Zwift Power. Then it was like, well, where are the elites going to sit? We have the Zwift World Series. I mean, there's somewhere for people to fit in a way that racing makes sense on some sort of a structure. Yeah. So I can see it forming more and more. And I think there's a longer term plan as things can kind of magnetize to what is happening with this calendar. At least that's my hopes. Yeah.
Dave, it looks to me like Zwift is taking the build it and they will come approach to racing now. I mean, the upsurge in numbers has been huge, and HQ realises, I think they've realised for some time, but now they put the resources in to back it. They realise that racers are amongst the most committed of Zwifters.
There's no doubt about that. And it really, I mean, Nate, I was just listening to Nathan talking about it, and, 10 years ago is one thing, but it's really 2 years ago where you see this shift that starts to happen, and now it's phenomenally improved. And the experience, we've had a nice interview with Matt, was a good example, is the community is what it's all about. That is the foundation for racing. Yeah. And Nathan's church analogy makes a lot of sense, actually. And we are really in good shape with local churches, if you want to look at it that way. And so we did an event last night that there were a lot of things that Nathan integrated into the broadcast that we hadn't done before. More rider interviews. You just had a really good feeling when we were done. The feedback from the racers has been tremendous. The racing score seems to be pretty well accepted and working as planned. So, yeah, it's almost to me, Simon, like when in the U.S. the economy's doing better, you think, oh, wow, this is great. And how do we keep this going now? You just want to keep this momentum rolling forward. And it's been a while since I felt this kind of positivity around racing on Zwift. It's really, really cool.
Well, you've gone with the economic analogy, Dave, so I'll sum up this little segment by saying maybe it's not the economy stupid, it's the racing stupid. Right, let's do some hardware chat, because that division of Zwift has not been ignored. The big new initiative is a program called Zwift Ready. Shane, I and the listeners would be eternally grateful if you could summarise what this is and then go on to explain why it matters.
Yeah, can do. This is quite an easy one, actually, because it's using concepts that we already know that it's out there and working. So Zwift Ready is a certification or a tick of approval that a smart trainer is compatible with Zwift protocol. So it's going to work with the Zwift cog and supports virtual shifting within Zwift. So virtual shifting can be performed with the Play controller, the Zwift Click, or with the controllers on the Zwift Ride smart frame. So Zwift Ready trainers are compatible and will be compatible with just the Zwift Ride smart frame alone, which is now available for purchase, I think, at time of publication of this podcast. So quite simple. It just means you're going to be able to use virtual shifting and supported by Zwift.
So what's different then? I mean, this sounds like it's an expansion of an existing program.
Zwift have gone through a few different certification programs and processes in the past. I think they've had Zwift certified trainers, which just means it supports, I believe, FVC and Bluetooth connectivity and things like that. But this is more about supporting their own Zwift protocol. So underneath, all the work Zwift have done for that virtual shifting is now officially supported by other third parties. There's a few of those coming out and a few emerging too. So there'll be more by the end of the year.
So for people who like to keep things simple, if they're buying a trainer, the kind of like first line of defense, if you want on a kind of interoperability or keeping the stress out of the purchase, is this Zwift Ready sticker thing.
It's a nice to have for sure. If you're looking at ever possibly going to the Zwift Ride frame, or if you do ever want to use Zwift virtual shifting, just make sure you buy a trainer with that sticker on the side and away you go. But this in no way invalidates all the other trainers. All the other trainers with the standard cassette that support ANT plus FEC, Bluetooth FTMS, they will still continue to work with Zwift. So it's not a lockout, it's not a shutout, it's just certification and a guarantee that these trainers will work with virtual shifting.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, as you just hinted at, the Zwift Ride is now, promised when it was first announced, but now is available as a frame-only option. This is great if you've got a compatible trainer already, so because for a relatively not crazy outlay, you get to take maybe your one and only bike off the trainer and use it out on the road again, and you don't have to hoik the thing on and off, which is annoying. 2 questions for you, Shane. Is the pricing right? And how popular do you think this is going to be?
Yeah, when I first heard about the pricing of, the entire package, the Zwift Ride and the Zwift Core 1 kicker thingy, it's got a big long name to it, but everybody knows the package I'm talking about, I was taken aback. I'm like, in this day and age, rarely do we see value. That, to me, was actually good value because that entire package was about half the price of some of the top-end smart trainers now and well below the smart bikes that I've been riding and testing over the last few years. So that was great. The frame alone, it's not too bad. Coming in at $800 US, €800, £749. That's not too bad, to be honest. Now, it's not available in Australia, so no comment on the Australian pricing. Unfortunately, it's going to cause a bit of friction there. But look, talk about the value of the bike. For me, whenever I get something through the Llama Lab, there's a lot of boxes arriving every day. A lot of stuff comes in, goes out, and that's it. The frame, the ride frame, you can probably see it on the video here that we're filming with, it's still sitting behind me. I'm still using it for my day-to-day testing, my day-to-day riding. It's a good utility for me. I can't say that about any other smart bike, although they do take up a lot more room and aren't compatible with any other trainer. So I guess I get more out of the Zwift Ride frame. Popularity, we're going to have to see where things land for this season. But I think at that price, it's not going to be prohibitive. I know people will complain regardless, but I think it's not too bad. I'd like to see more availability throughout the world, though, because my fellow Aussies are going to complain about that, and New Zealand as well. Yep. Shout out to New Zealanders listening. But I think it's a positive thing. I do like the idea of it's also compatible with multiple trainers now. So if you're not into the Wahoo ecosystem, there's going to be a few other options too.
Yeah. I mean, I think the market for this will be people who've got a bike on a trainer for their Zwifting, but do also ride outside, fed up of hoiking it on and off. And then I guess the kind of question you ask yourself there on pricing is this comparable to going onto eBay or Craigslist or whatever and finding a beaten-up second-hand bike, which then won't have all the kind of Zwifty things on it that the frame's got, like the levers and the shifting, and they're compatible with, future technical developments. And actually, that's a pretty easy argument to see where the average purchaser is going to come down on, isn't it?
And the warranty as well. Now, that's something that it's not a tangible thing, but if you do need to use it, obviously it will be. You need to return things. For something cheap off eBay, sometimes you need to buy twice. So it depends where the value comes in there. But yeah, to be honest, I like the bike. I really do. Now, I'm not trying to be a fanboy, even though, of course, I am. It works quite well. I've always been looking at doing a single-speed setup for this, but the bike's just solved the problem. And it's one of those things where you spend once, it solves the problem, it sits there. The other day, I wanted to jump on. It was Father's Day. Got up, had a big breakfast. I wanted to get a ride in before we had another lunch, and I only had an hour. But within 3 minutes, I was on the bike and in the pens. Unfortunately, for a race that I'd never planned to do, I got dropped within the first 5 minutes because I didn't warm up. But the thing is, I was on the bike riding so quickly. And that's the best part about having these permanent setups that are there. You don't need to worry about, is the bike outdoors? Do I need to bring it up the stairs? Do I need to bring it in the house and bang it against the doors? And you do that once with this frame, bringing it in, and then you can fix the doors and everything's fine.
Yeah. And I think at $799, that is probably a price people are willing to pay to sideswerve all that awful hassle you've got of getting a bike on and off a trainer. Okay. Last question, Shane, on hardware. Do you, in the context of this season on Zwift, I mean, all the kind of headline-y stuff, I guess, is mainly software. Do you think hardware has had enough love and attention draped on it by Zwift?
Yeah, it's good to see Zwift getting into hardware. I don't think people give Zwift enough credit for what they've done to the hardware market. I've said it many times, and I'll keep saying it, that they changed the landscape entirely by dropping that price down to $499 with the Zwift Hub One. Yes, hang on, Zwift. Yes, they did. That was the one. But just dropping the floor of that pricing and making things more accessible, and giving people the option to maybe even get a second bike or a second trainer or upgrade as well. So Zwift have done really, really well on the hardware side of things. They're still known as a software company, but they are making waves without a doubt across the board when it comes to the hardware. I'm glad to see the Zwift Ready certification come out, and I'm glad to see more than just Wahoo on that as well. So other trainers and other trainer manufacturers get in. Again, there's no shutout, there's no lockout. Of course, they have to work with Zwift for this compatibility. But no, it's really good to see. I'm happy to see what's coming up, and I can't wait to get a few of those new trainers in the Llama Lab and trying to blow them up. Always makes for good viewing.
Big tick from Shane there. Eric, I have a sneaking suspicion based on the volume of when is that coming then queries we saw around the launch of the Zwift Ride, the whole ride, frame plus trainer, that the frame itself on its own is going to fly out of the warehouses. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. There has to be so many more Zwifters who have compatible trainers already for the Zwift Ride frame, who have the Wahoo kicker core, the latest kicker, the Zwift Hub. There has to be so many more of those Zwifters with compatible trainers who just want a bike, like a dedicated indoor bike, compared to how many Zwifters there were who were looking for a whole new setup. I think it's going to be 2 to 4 times more Zwifters interested in just the frame than the whole setup, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right, because I mean, what this is appealing to is people probably have only got one bike. Well, not only got one bike, but most people are not like us with several bikes, but or maybe most cyclists do and don't admit to it. Anyway, but the point is, this makes for that kind of cadre of people, it makes a temporary setup into a permanent setup, which just means it's a whole lot easier to Zwift.
Yep.
Okay, well, the hardware section of this season on Zwift also saw an expansion of the Zwift virtual shifting program, which Shane amply and volubly explained to us how that is going to work. I'll ask you, who's interested? Do we care about a kind of another Zwift certified official Zwift? We approve of this sticker thingy, whatever it is. Do we need this? Does anybody look at these things?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're asking who's going to be interested, I think there's two big groups: new Zwifters, people who haven't been on Zwift before and are looking for a trainer setup. I think that's really going to matter. Whether it supports virtual shifting or not. And the other would be old Zwifters, current Zwifters, who are looking to replace their smart trainer or upgrade it. I think both of those groups of people are going to be looking at whether the trainer supports virtual shifting. I think that's going to be an important feature that a lot of people will be considering when they're buying a trainer. Not everybody, but because of all the advantages that virtual shifting offers, it has to be seen as kind of a premium feature. And even if you're not going to use it, you might buy the trainer, and that kind of pushes you over the edge of deciding to buy one trainer over another just because it has that capability which you might use in the future.
And it plays into the Zwift mantra, doesn't it, of simplify, 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 and kind of reassure. If you see this, it's going to work, and that's a good thing. Okay, we will come back to you before the end for a little valedictory session, actually. Okay, well, that silly old Tron bike has been put into the shade. There's a new cool bike in town, the Halo bike. Difference being that while the Tron is earned, the Halo, which is a mean-looking Pinarello, at least the iteration we've seen, it was, but there are going to be lots of other iterations. It's a mean machine. The difference being that that's bought, and we think it's going to cost a whole lot of drops. So, which bike is going to be the bigger status symbol, Nathan? The Tron or the Halo?
That's a tough one, but I think the Halo mainly. Oh man, it's tough. Like I get the okay, so it's kind of like an FTK, fastest known time. FKT, sorry, fastest known time, right? Like people know it's there, and you can go get it, and it's a challenge, right? But when you spend earned stuff on something, I just feel like the status just comes a little bit stronger. It also depends on the dollar sign, right? But like, if the dollar sign's crazy and you can only be someone who has really, really, really worked for something, and then you spent it yourself, you actually took the risk. Because when you spend, you're taking a risk, right? There's not really that much risk with climbing. I mean, some people don't really like to do it. They don't have their Tron, but others, like, you just can spend, if you get the drops and then you make the choice and you risk all those, you're not putting them somewhere else. And this is what I've got. So I don't know. I just think the Halo bike is going to be the better thing. And maybe it's something that you could have in your garage, Simon.
I'll ignore that subtle little dig that you got in a few seconds ago, because that's what I do now when you boys take the mickey out of me about the silly old Tron bike. Dave, it was a bit of a false dichotomy that I set up there, actually, because, of course, the Halo bike is bought with drops and drops are earned. So it is purchased, but you've got to put the sweat in to make the purchase. Having said that, kind of earned always means more than bought, even given that kind of false dichotomy. But what are the cool kids going to be riding, do you think?
The Halo, to tell you the truth. And yeah, I'm definitely down with this. I've always thought if I was a billionaire, I wouldn't show you my bank account, but I would show you my Bugatti, right? And I'm kind of in that mindset.
That's a good one.
The Bugatti or the Ferrari of Zwift looks like it's going to be the Halo bike.
Ride on!
And getting towards the conclusion of this special episode, a tribute to the power of Zwift Insider. I'll spare Eric's blushes by not asking him to describe his long-running and vigorous campaign to persuade HQ that the empty, yawning, gaping chasm of the fourth challenge should be filled with, well, anything really. I mean, it's been a vacuum for a decade. Instead, I will remind listeners that Eric has been campaigning on this forever, coming up with his ideas, championing the cause on every available forum, lobbying behind the scenes, and his patience and persistence has finally paid off. Eric Slanger, take a bow and then tell us what HQ have decided about the fourth challenge.
Thank you, Simon. First, I want to thank my mother, who always believed in me, and also my wife, who never gave up hope.
That's enough of that.
Even in the darkest time. Mostly, I think this change of heart from Zwift HQ can be attributed to the most clickbaity Zwift Insider article title I ever created, which was "How to Unlock the Fourth Zwift Challenge." And the first sentence of that article, if I remember right, was something like, "You can't. Here's the spoiler. There is no fourth challenge." And it's ridiculous because it's just as you said, a yawning, gaping chasm. No, but it is good news. So there's actually two bits of news here. First, Zwift is rolling out what I would call mini challenges, tiny challenges. They're smaller challenges that can be done maybe, say, in a month or two. And you can be working on one of these mini challenges at the same time as you're working on one of the bigger existing challenges, the three, the Tour of Italy, the Ride California, the Mount Everest, the one you're signed up for, the Mount Everest one, Simon.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that one.
So you can work, you have smaller challenges and a bigger challenge you can work on concurrently. So that's coming in September 9th. Zwift says they're releasing the first mini challenge. So that's the first bit of news with challenges. But the second one is Zwift says they're working on a fourth big challenge. And that's what I'm most excited about. And what I'm sure a whole lot of Zwifters will be excited about, because a lot of Zwifters have completed all three challenges and they're waiting for a new one to start putting their miles or their elevation or their whatever toward. Zwift they haven't given a precise ETA for that fourth challenge, but it sounds like it's imminent. So I'm going to say it's coming in the next month or two would be my guess. And I'm looking forward to it.
The battle, Eric, is won.
Yes.
We don't know the prize yet, but the battle is won. For British listeners, this is the equivalent of the empty plinth in Trafalgar Square being filled with something. We must say, well done, Eric, a complete triumph.
Thank you.
There were one or two other little tricks up HQ's sleeve in the This Season on Zwift announcement. Runners got a little bit more love. They got a more customizable HUD, an incline indicator, and there was promise of more to come for them. And then there's Zwift Base Camp. Now, this is interesting. If Zwifters complete 6 special training sessions, they'll get a personalised report of their strengths and weaknesses with the recommendations then of programs to work on those things. This, I think, is a real sign of things to come. I mean, personalised training programs could be absolutely huge for Zwift and Zwifters. But we're going to hold that thought, because next step, we're going to be having a longer look at training and at the Zwift Academy. But for this special episode, that is it, listeners. We'll be back soon. This is the bit where we say thanks very much to Zwift. Thanks, Zwift, for supporting the Zwiftcast. And we also like to remind listeners that we decide what goes into the podcast, not Zwift. Thanks for listening.